So welcome back to a new episode, and we're going to get straight into the Krusty RS project. I think that's what we're going to be calling the car from now on, Krusty the RS. Until it's all back to rot free, that's the name for it. So Krusty, this is the new nickname you got. I found a new panel, new old stock panel on eBay. I'm bidding on it at the minute, so hopefully I'll win that. If we can replace that whole panel, you can see you can take these spot welds out. I don't know what's going to happen with this section yet, because obviously that's been welded over the top of that panel, which makes it a little bit more difficult to just replace it. But once that whole thing's replaced, that'd be nice. Still looking for a rear quarter, so anyone that can help me with a rear quarter, new old stock would be brilliant. If not, I'm going to have to just patch it up with two panels, the arch panel and the filler cap panel, and then this one's just going to have a new arch panel, and hopefully someone will have a new old stock full version of that as well. But it's not too much difficulty to just put in, you can see, an arch. It's not too high. I mean, you could be cutting it out maybe up here around these bubbling. So now what the job is to get this up in the air, jack it up, have a look underneath. So we're going to get on with that now. So it's time to get this front bubble off, see what's going on. I don't want to take the side skirts off yet. Going to jack it up in the air, check the seals. I'm pretty sure that the seal along here is rotten, because if you look at this wing, let's try and push it, see it's come away from the seal. It's a common thing. The bracket along the bottom of the wing, that normally comes away from the seal when they rot out. So going to jack that up as well, have a look underneath. So getting underneath the car now, let's have a look under here. So you can see there's a lot of nasty like surface corrosion and that. There's nothing too worrying. It's just paint, cosmetic stuff. Probably bushes and everything have gone, they'll be replaced anyway. CVs seem to be in good shape, even the boots. Good thing is there's no chassis damage or rust along the chassis legs. You see the chassis legs are pretty good actually, which is a relief. You can see along the front part of the chassis leg as well, that's all good. I can clearly see now where my finger's pointing, where I said about the seals. That's the part you can see from inside the car where the hole is, and that's where the wing attaches on the Fiesta turbos. So that's why it's come away from the wing, because that's rotted out. See the mongoose exhaust system, all this under here is just covered in oil. That's the typical way to stop rust under these cars, leaking oils, mainly from these CVH sumps. Looks like some gearbox fluid, but you can see the sump on this is pretty dry because the car's not done no miles on the road. When I rebuilt it, it had the new sump gaskets, all this gasket kits all new. So you can see along the front end really is just replacement of parts, and there's no rot or rust. You can see just surface, absolutely minor stuff, nothing at all compared to the floor pans. So because I've checked the chassis leg, made sure there's no rot or rust on that, I can get the car right up in the air on the side now, and we can clearly see the rust that we was looking at from underneath as opposed to on top now. So you can see this is the rot to the floor pan on the seal. So it looks like under here the floor pans and everything else are actually pretty good. I don't know if it's had under seal put on it, but you can see there's no rot anywhere else. So it looks like we are getting to the bottom of where the rot is. You can see this is like the under seal stuff, and it's peeled off, and that's pretty much why it's rotted. And normally what that happens is because people jack them off this seal. I mean, you can see along here how a lot of the seal has been crushed in, and where the seal's been crushed in, you can see that's where it's rusting. So it rusts between the metals because there's damage there, and then it gets in between the sealant. You can see all along here is pretty much exactly the same, and along the chassis legs it's surface rust, but it's not rotted out on the chassis legs. You can see here on the rear beam, it's just pretty much surface rust that just, you know, blast off. You get a whole lot off. You see here it's pretty solid as well. Most of that's surface rust. And you see the tank's a little bit rusty, but it does look like it's pretty good under here, other than them bits that we've already seen, which is pretty good. I was expecting it to be a lot worse, expecting the chassis legs to be rotten, especially along the back as well, but we look like we've just got surface rust along these chassis legs. Right, so now we're underneath the back of the car. I'm actually pretty surprised. It's not as bad as I was thinking it was going to be under here. It actually looks worse from the outside than it does underneath. So it's like cosmetically they could have sorted it out rather than having the chassis rot out. See the chassis legs along here. These are all pretty solid. You've got like a little bit of surface here. I'll scrape that off, see how far that goes, you know. But you can see like it's pretty good. It's been undersealed in the past, so that's not too bad. This rear panel from the back is actually not bad, which is really weird because most of the problems with this car ain't actually underneath by the looks of things. So you're seeing it for the first time I've seen it. See, it's lovely and crusty, but that's easy enough to sort out. They're easy parts. You can see a little bit of overspray here as well on the plastics. That's always a telltale sign that the car's had a spray at some point, which it has. I could easily tell that. So this is looking down the car now. So you can see basically on the left and the right sill is basically where we've got the problems. And then we've got this rear panel, maybe a front panel, and the arches. So it's actually bodywork outside rather than underneath. Normally these rot underneath. So this must have been protected at some point, which is done really well. So that's actually quite a nice feeling. So really we're just doing cosmetic, and it's not structural stuff. You know, I hate having structural weakness. This stuff here is obviously just cosmetic. You know, I know it's an arch, but it's not really doing anything structural like chassis legs or floor pans and stuff like that. So luckily this rust here looks like pretty much the worst of it. I was really dreading actually looking underneath. I thought it was going to be properly rotted out, but you've seen it underneath now, so let me know what you think. So the chassis legs inside the engine bay are also pretty good. They've even got paint on them, not even got any surface rust on them. And the good thing about it is they haven't been in a crash, so there's no twists or bends, because you know there's no point repairing the shell that's already had a crash and the chassis legs damaged. So you can see the battery tray's got like a lot of surface rust on it. I'll obviously whack through that, but I don't think there's going to be any problem with holes in this. But even if there was, this is just spot welded on really easily. So no rust around the turrets on the engine bay either, and also down on the chassis legs. You know, there's no kinks or bends. Normally these cars end up in a ditch at some point in their life, but luckily this hasn't. I know that the engine bay's a mess at the minute, but obviously I haven't even touched it yet, and you know that it won't stay that way. Right, so I just wanted to prove something quickly to you without the RSs that are out there. You can see all the rust, you've just seen all the rust underneath. But you see how easy it is that I've just made this car look like it's a decent car, especially for pictures, maybe on Instagram, maybe for selling it. So people have got underneath the car and they've seen how rusty it is and they want to put it back together to sell. So be really careful out there, guys. I don't want any of yous getting stung by any of these scamming people that see how rotten the car is, put it back together so they can sell it. So have a proper look around. You've seen what I've just done, and in the previous episodes I've done with this car, I've had a proper look around it. You can see where the rust is, and you can see how well I've just put the body kit, stuck it back on, and how well I've made the car look for pictures, and stuck it on eBay for like 7 or 8 grand and made someone's life a misery basically. So how would you like to get this car home, get it up on the ramp and see all that rust that you've just seen in this episode underneath the car? So be careful, get a proper look in of the car, make sure that you get someone with you, get it up on the ramp. That's the most important part. If someone won't let you have a proper look around it, just step away from the car. So the part that's needed to be changed for a while on this car is the wideband lambda sensor. So this one here, you can see it's the shorter version of the two. That needs to be changed. At the minute, the current diagnostics are the car is not displaying its AFRs quick enough. So on that's how you can kind of tell if they're either working or they're not sometimes. But the AFRs are taking a lot longer to register than they would. So if I let off the throttle, for instance, it's going off to scale, it takes too long to come back on. So if we look at that's it stuck here. If we look at the Lambda on idle, this should be in the 15s. You can see it goes all the way down, it's down 12s, 13s, then it slowly starts to come back up, and it's just basically not registering quick enough. So you might think, look, you can see it's all over the place at the minute. So you might think it's still working, but it's actually not reading correctly. So we're going to change that out now. As you just see, the wideband lambda sensor I'm using is obviously for the AEM gauge. The AEM gauges normally come with a longer AEM wideband sensor from Bosch. So I bought one of these thinking that was going to be the case. But then as you see, it was actually the shorter version. But luckily, I do keep a lot in spares because these do fail quite often. So I've got this one, it's a lot shorter version. But as you can see on them, that the plugs are a little bit different. So the longer plugs come with this shape connector on them, and then the shorter plugs come with this shape connector on them. So I'm going to have a look, see which one I've got, and I might have to change it over because I'm pretty sure it's not that size. Right, I've just pulled out the sensors. So this is the knackered one. This one here, it has lasted me a long time, so I'm really happy with it. One thing I'm really pleased about is the sensor plug connector on the new one and the old one is identical. So normally I have to cut these and mess around with them, the lengths, everything. So I'm very happy with having this one as a spare. Same length, but what I want to show you also is how you mount these in the downpipe. Now you've got to make sure that I've not even cleaned this yet, you've got to make sure that these don't get any condensation or water build up on them, because it can kill the sensors really quickly. So I'm going to quickly show you how it should look on an exhaust pipe. And also, while I'm here, these sensors are always a 22mm, just makes it a lot easier. And also, don't do them up too tight, especially if it's mild steel to stainless or whatever. This washer, it's only there to seal, and there's absolutely no need to crank on this. Just nip them up so that it stops the exhaust gases coming out. Right, so say this section is the exhaust pipe that's going underneath your car, flat to the body. The ideal place to mount this wideband is 12 o'clock. But you can mount them, because obviously you're going to have the body close to here. You can mount them from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Never ever have them sitting up like that, because with these exhausts the condensation will build up and it will be water along the bottom of the pipe, and that will seep into here. So you can see inside there's like multiple holes that the air gets into. A lot of people think that you can take these sensors out and clean them, that's why they're not working, but it doesn't work like that. You can see they're like a sealed unit, and the exhaust gases go into there, and that's how it reads the exhaust AFRs. But the problem is there's no way of getting anything in there to clean them. Even if you spray carb cleaner, brake cleaner, you can end up damaging these sensors. So anyone that says, "I'll clean up your lambda sensor," it doesn't work. Right, so say this is the downpipe now coming off of your exhaust from the turbo. Say the turbo's here. Never mount your wideband there. Perfect position, because you're not going to have the floor now, is to mount it like that. So it just sits like that. But you can mount it from there to there. So that's the ideal places. If you're going to have them on the downpipe coming down this section, have them in the middle. Never come down at an angle or anything. So it's just a little thing, it just stops these sensors knackering. This one has lasted me a long time, years it has, because it's been mounted in the right position. And there's a quick comparison between the new and the old one before I put it in. You can see the left hand side, it's had its day, seen some serious heat, so we're going to put a nice fresh one in. So nice fresh new sensor in. You can see there, whenever you put these new lambda sensors in, always make sure this wiring is well away from the downpipe or exhaust system. It's a no-brainer. You know, they've got the shielding over it, but they can still get really hot and melt the plugs. So let's give it a little quick start up, see if the AFRs are all spot on now. Should, you know, settle around to about 15s, 14 9s when it's all off a cold start. So you can see the AFRs you would have normally on a cold start around the 13 8s, 13 9s, 14s, then it will gradually get leaner as it gets warmer. Right, so it's just gone off of its secondary cold start, and you can see now AFR's started to climb, goes to, there should get to about 14.9, touching into the 15s as it gets up to temperature. So you can now see that wideband sensor spot on now. So job done, another wideband that's working perfectly again.